you look up the definition of tyranny, it'll say under abusive government. But you also look down there, and it's arbitrary use of power, which means they do it on a whim or a thoughtless act which isn't real, like they're trying to enforce upon everybody, taking weapons away from normal people and not chasing criminals. So we are under a tyranny right now. But the thing is, the forefathers, being that they were up against this tyranny, that they do stuff on a whim, it means that if they were in constant correspondence with people back in England and people in the colonies that were higher than them, in getting trying to negotiate, instead of being under a slave, they were basically looking at themselves being turned into slaves, is what they were looking at, because the laws, they were just writing them into slavery basically. And basically they wanted them there just for monetary. It was just there. They were just there to supply the whole kingdom of England with, goods and services. Well, not services, because they'd have to be going back and forth on a boat. But anyway, so and they were wanting all the money. So, not only were they needing all the goods like the rum and the tobacco to sell it, and you know how farmers are, they grow it and they get nothing for it, and then the retailers, they jack it up 100 and 200%. And if you're a kingdom, you're probably jacking up 1,000%. But anyway, the people like Washington and all the people that were in to the Constitution had to have been, they were sick of the negotiating, because there was no good negotiating. See, that's what tyranny wants. They draw you into believing that you have, that's the reason they have freedom of speech. You have it, but then all of a sudden tyranny comes along, and it doesn't matter what you say. And in fact, arbitrary also means it's almost like certain groups can be picked out and laws can be written against them, or stuff like that. So that's another form of tyranny. And so we are in a tyranny right now, and they do not negotiate. I mean, every time you negotiate, they negotiate, and you put these idiots that spend their money on houses, you give to the NRA and these guys. I thought that whatever that guy's name is, I don't even know what his name is, Pierre or whatever it is, I thought he was thrown out, the last time they found out that he had houses. It's like, I looked up maybe a couple weeks ago who's in charge of the NRA, and he's still there. And I'm like, well, didn't he just screw everybody over? And now he's still there, and they're just cheering him on and saying, hey, give to the NRA. Why would anybody give to that guy after he screwed everybody out? He's like, all these people that Trump just let go. It was like, I heard that one guy, he took people for $1 million. He took donations for the wall because he was saying, hey, let's collect people from the citizenry, and then he goes and spends it on himself. Then he go to the wall. You think somebody like that they're all supposed to be patriotic and stuff, is going to turn around, take every cent, and put it to the wall and make sure it gets put. And he spent it on himself, and Trump just freaking gave him a pass. You're free to go. So he walks away with these people. That's I don't know what that's a different. I don't know what that is. But right now, anyway, so you're back in the Revolutionary War. Not even in the Revolutionary War, because what happened was people got sick of the orders that were coming down, that they were just taking more and more. And they started having rebellions in each colony. Each colony had rebellions, and sectors of the governors. What they did is they made the governors look incompetent, In other words, they weren't in control of their governage or their colony, and that's how they did it back then. But see, they studied, all these people have studied, the historians and all that, and they feed this stuff to the White House of how, gee, how did they win the revolution, and how did they build up and they've done it. So now they've found out ways to keep that from ever happening again, for where people think that they have rights or power. They give you rights, and it's like, you think, oh, we got rights, and it's like a bib for their slobbers. They're going to slobber on you. It's not your slobbers, it's their slobbers. They're going to slobber on you with what they want you to do, what they want everything. But anyway, so the they were negotiating, or they weren't negotiating. They were sending negotiations and all this, and they were getting nothing. In fact, every time they sent a negotiation, they'd send back one more. They'd increase the tax, or they'd put restrictions or addendums to the taxes they already had, and that's what fueled the rebellions. Is they were not getting any breaks. It was like they were just constantly taking, and that's what they're doing right now. They're just constantly taking our rights. Back then, it was money. They were trying to establish. People were trying to establish. They had, people they had to pay, and it was making the commoners probably look like, hey, we ain't got enough money. We're paying all these taxes. We're not having enough money to pay back the credit. Maybe we got credit for some grains for our bread, to feed ourselves, or we just bought a wagon and we can't pay it back now because the taxes have come along. It's just like all the prices. It's the same thing. All the prices have escalated on everything. I mean, you freaking pickups are $70,000. A freaking pickup to put stuff in, like you go to work in a work pickup. Who would want to spend $70,000 on a pickup? Is where I'm at. I was like, can you imagine if there was a manufacturer right now that came out with a pickup that was actually decent priced, and they had their own, and they just made one style, just one style pickup, maybe a 4-wheel drive, 3/4 ton frame, and airbags, so you could get a nice soft half-ton ride, and when you needed to haul something 3/4 ton, it'd haul it. You just fill the airbags, and you'd have a nice sturdy 3/4 ton with a half-ton ride, and you wouldn't have to have it jacked up in the air, so you need a step ladder to load stuff in and out of your truck, and you wouldn't need one of those drop-down freaking ball hitches. But that's what they're doing. I mean, look at the price of everything. Houses, you can't. How does that's people are homeless. I don't, the rent is, I couldn't, rent is outrageous. I can't understand how people can pay rent, but it's outrageous. But the thing is, they didn't give us an explanation. They said to fight against tyranny. They didn't tell you what tyranny is, because they was up against it. They figured they was up against it for decades, and everybody knew about it, and they just fought a war about it. And so they didn't have to write it down in an explanation. They didn't have to write down how all the rights shouldn't be infringed. But they did say one right shouldn't be infringed, and that's the Second Amendment. The right to defend yourself against criminals or whatever. They don't have to put that stuff down. It's just a natural right. It's something that they say it should just be common sense and common knowledge. And that's exactly what it is. But the legislators, they want you to argue about everything, because they want to get you tied up on their little game of words, so that they can get a nice string of words out and then take out of context what you said, tell everybody what you said, and it looks like you're shameful for what you said. And it's not. It's just that that's the game they play, and that's the power of them. There's not the power of the pen. That's just how the government is. They're in control. If you go to a court hearing or anything like that, You can't take your typewriter in there and type what you said. The judge would say, "What are you typing for?" Well, I'm just typing down every word that's said. Well, we got a stenographer for that. Well, I don't trust them. They're going to say, "Well, that's too bad. You can't, maybe you can. I don't even know if you can record in a courthouse. I don't know if you can record your own trial in a courthouse. Maybe you can. Sometimes you can film, sometimes you can't. But anyway, for right now, they don't. Everybody's thinking, well, we got the Second Amendment, yeah, but it doesn't have legs. It's not just going to rip itself out of the Constitution and walk down the street and punch somebody in the nose and say, okay, it's time for you guys to back off our rights because they're our rights. They're not yours. They're not supposed to be messed with. You're not supposed to be censoring us. You're not supposed to be taking our liberties away, telling us where we can and can't go, what we can and can't say. And you think people will say, yeah, we have rights. What you have to do is you have to get off your couch, and this is tyranny. So they don't care what you say. That's what they did. That's what the forefathers did. That's the reason they got the Second Amendment, is because it's like when all of you get together and say, hey, this is over. We're tired of this. When you all realize, if you think this is so bad that you have to take up arms against the government and say, but I don't think anybody's at that point. I think they're just like, well, let it draw. They're going to draw you out until they're going to tax everything. It's the same thing. They're going through the same thing. The only thing is, you notice in this is the tax. You don't realize the price of what it takes to live. Like, you need a vehicle, you need a home, you need a telephone, you need all this stuff, and they're just jacking the price up of all these necessities that you need, and it's sucking the taxes right out, and you pay taxes on everything you have. You're constantly buying license, which was every year or every couple of years you have to buy a license for your vehicle. And that was just all this stuff is originally for certain things. It was like so they could identify it or as your vehicle if it was stolen, and they could say, "Oh, there it is," whatever. I can't remember what it was. There was just so many vehicles. I think they needed. I can't remember. It was like they didn't have VIN numbers or something. I don't know. But anyway, they just keep addending everything we have and charging us for it. And we're paying for everything. It's not a free country. It's a marketing scheme anymore. Now, it might have been free. I mean, it used to be free because there was free land. If you wanted to battle the Indians, it's free as they didn't tell anybody that. They get here and then all of a sudden they get the horror stories. Oh yeah, you want free land? Well, it's out there, and right now it's in Indian territory. And people they roam around, and I'm not even going to get into the aspects of whatever, but they'll talk all day with you, but you're not going to get anything from them. They'll have meetings. You can go to court all day, and you'll think you won something, but then they'll put two things against you, and that's how they win. And they go, we'll give him this. It's meaningless. Then that's how they are. They give you protesters meaningless little wins, and it's almost like they're trying to derail this country from. I don't know. It's since I've been born, they've just had presidents in there that are just in there to be in there. We haven't had any real presidential leaders. I mean, maybe Eisenhower was, but I was reading about Eisenhower, and he'd done some stuff and this, that, and the other. And we never had Patton because he died, and he was probably just a warmonger anyway. But they come up with ideas, and then the idea sticks, and we're stuck with it. It's for a certain time, and we're stuck with that idea, like all the taxes we have, like sales tax, we have income tax, we have property tax, everything we got, and it's never ending, and they keep increasing their pay. It's like what is it, inflation, like your pay increase with inflation. The only people that get that are the government. And you see that all the time. The whole country being a bad spot, and they'll give themselves a pay raise because, well, we haven't had, nobody has. I don't know. I think minimum wage back in the 70s was like 4. It was like 3, and then it went up to 4. You can't live on it. You couldn't even live on it back then. And but now I don't know. It's people keep breeding though. That's another problem. Is people keep breeding. It's like, why would you breed if money is so tight and money is such a necessity? Why would you continue to breed, bring kids into the world? Now, I'm not saying, people say, well, you're trying to genocide us by telling us not to breed. No, I'm just saying, because human race is human race, and it's whatever. But it's the necessity. Is it a necessity to, it's just a name, a word. Your name is just a word. Are you the king of your lineage? No, you're not the king of your lineage. I mean, do you have something to pass on? I mean, do you have anything to pass on to your kids? You got an old broken down car you want to pass out? Is that what it is? You have a skill you're going to pass on? It's all this stuff. It's all these bad decisions that are made, and by everybody, and that's the whole problem. And they keep putting idiot leaders in charge. People keep voting them in. I don't think we need a government, to tell you the truth. But I'm sick of hearing all these people talk about Second Amendment, First Amendment. That's true. They are taking it, and we are this is a tyranny because they pick out groups and they just make up stuff as they go. And we're stuck with it. It doesn't matter what you argue. They vote on stuff, and you don't even get a vote in it. You don't even get a say in it. They just vote it in, and it's a difference between the Congress and the Senate. And then the president don't veto it. They throw a law at you, and that's all they do. They think, well, the problem is you guys got lawyers in there. You don't have. We're not electing any people that can fix problem solvers. You've seen any problem solvers? I haven't seen a problem solver in my lifetime. I've seen a lot of people that can self-promote, can put themselves in the popular light as far as presidents and all these senators and stuff, but I haven't seen any problem solvers. And if there is, there'll be one person solve a problem, they get elected to Senate because they solve one problem, then they're just an idiot, and that's all they know. They had one problem, they worked it, they get in, and then what? They get retirement for the rest of their life. Every time somebody gets elected, the taxes are paying for their retirement. I don't think they should get retirement. I think there's a lot of stuff that this country needs to work out, and they aren't even, and people say, well, we got this and we got that. Yeah, well, until you get more than your mouth, you gotta have more than a parking lot full of people. You have to have, and this country isn't together. I mean, that's what they do. They can grab small groups of people, and it is tyranny. It doesn't have to be the whole country. Tyranny is also against groups of people. It doesn't have to be every single person in the country. So it's if you think it has to be like my neighbor, me and him have nothing in common, and we both think it doesn't have to be like that. They can pick small groups of people and then just come off stuff, just write laws against it willy-nilly to their heart's delight, because that's all they are, is lawyers. They write laws, and that's all they do. And they know these small groups, they don't have the organization or the wherewithal to get together, because they'll do this group for a while, and they'll throw a law at them, and then they'll go over here, they'll throw a law at them, and they're reacting from people that are saying, well, they might have had a problem with this small group, and this person goes off and says, well, I'm going to tell my legislator or whoever, and they become this little tattletale on this group, and there's this tattletale for this group, and whatever they are, and they just go around and screw up everything for everybody. That's the whole problem. I don't know, until people get together on the same page instead of having, that's the whole problem. People, they start doing something, then they elect a leader of a group, and nobody likes, they say, well, why do we have to have a leader? That's our whole problem, is we have a leader. If you can do something as a group, leaders, they pick them for what? Because they're popular. They can talk. Well, once they get up there, you can see what popularity does, is it gets won over by power. Power over popularity. I guess if you played a game of rock, paper, scissors, you'd find out where popularity and then power and money or whatever, whatever the stair steps of, and how they all feed each other and how they can all block each other. It's a big game, and I need to get a chalkboard or something. And this you have to be a descriptive video to explain all the problems in society to get people to do something right.